I am super excited about our guest, Marley Jaxx, who is going to tell us her amazing story of perseverance and embracing change.
Live from Times Square, it's Pop Recovery Systems, led by visionary Laura Alexis. Pop Recovery Systems, redefining surgical recovery, with bariatric expert Dr. Eric Smith. Innovating surgical preparation and recovery, Pop Recovery Systems blends nutrition, mental health, and wellness.
Breaking through the noise and changing an industry. Join Laura Alexis and Dr. Eric Smith on the Pop Culture Podcast.
Well, I am so excited because when Eric and I were talking about guests, he was like, well, I have, one of my friends, Nick, he's an Olympic gold medalist. Other one is, Eric, he designed the Soul Cycle and the Peloton. I was like, I got you. My friend is Marley Jaxx. Oh my gosh. And she's an award-winning filmmaker, extraordinaire. And I mean, this woman is just so amazing. So Eric, I don't know if I told you this story. I probably didn't. I probably saved it for this. But no. I met Marley because I was trying to learn how to do better content creation. And I wanted to step into the world of YouTube. And at the time, I was talking to someone that we were friends. And he was like, well, have you ever heard of Marley Jaxx? I was like, no. And he was like, well, she's amazing. She helps people go from, 5 and 6 figures to 7 and 8 figures, all through evergreen content and all of this. And I was like, that sounds expensive.
That sounds like you.
It is expensive.
But I watched her cancel culture docu-stunt. No. Yes. Yes, I watched it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so I joined her program and over a year learned so much. And actually, me and my little sister were just talking about this yesterday. She was like, well, you love making content and it's just, you love it so much. And that's why it's easy for you to say you need to make content. I was like, that's not true. I had to learn how to love to make content. And that really came from Marley Jaxx. I will always owe that to you. You helped me come up with the different ideas of joint venturing, which I still haven't stopped doing that in our business.
Yes.
Being able to partner and collaborate. That's how I was able to meet Dr. Smith. And now he's like my brother from another mother. And so there's a lot that, you are responsible for that you don't even know until now.
Thank you. Well, I need to get that soundbite because what you just said is the best I could ever ask for when people go from creating content as a chore to this is fun. And what more could I be doing? What better could I be doing for my business and creating content?
Yes, I agree.
Thanks for saying that.
All right. So I feel like this episode is going to be role reversal because normally, if we have somebody and somebody starts talking medical or more closer to my field, then Laura's like, okay, hold on. Explain to me what this means. Or, she really admits her vulnerability that I don't know what you're talking about. And I feel like I'm going to say that a lot during this episode.
Great.
So I'm going to be like, what? So did you say docu-stunt?
Yes. Yes. Laura.
Okay. I have no problem. I'm a guy that doesn't even mind asking for directions. So I sure as heck don't mind asking, what does that mean?
Laura, do you want to say? Because you the one that said it.
Okay, I can say it. So what I gather it means, and she'll probably correct me, is where you take a documentary. You take a documentary.
You're being quizzed.
It's in the format of a documentary, but it's actually staged. And it's like a stunt because I think of it like stunt double, like when you are doing like an Indiana Jones reenactment from Disney World and he's showing you like, oh, this is how we do this. So this film that she made, it looked like it was like completely a documentary and real, but she staged all of it. And I had never seen anything like that.
But it's about real events and real content then.
It's real content because she made it, but it wasn't real, but it looked real, you know? And so that's what I think it is. So I was like, docu-stunt. There's also a slang, like you stunt on them fools. I feel like she was stunning on everybody with that filmmaking thing because, I mean, it was amazing. Like she basically got herself canceled. And it's a huge popular hit on YouTube. You have to watch it. It's really good. There's
absolutely, I'm going to.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It was a documentary with a publicity stunt. So exactly what Laura said, that you're watching it and you're like, this is, I mean, it's intriguing. There's different storylines going on. You're not sure what's happening. But at the end, and we're totally giving it away, but like when people watch this for the first time, they don't realize until like the last 30 seconds, I say everything that you just saw was fabricated for the purpose of this experiment to prove to you these points about cancel culture.
That it's real, that all these topics are real.
However, the stunt that you see, you don't realize until the end is staged. So I don't want to give it away too much because now I got to go watch
No. Because I'm going to listen, because if I go on Netflix, Anna gets so mad at me that I don't know what it is, by the way. I don't know if it's a female thing, but I feel like currently in the past couple years, everybody gravitates towards these shows. They got to speak with an English accent. It's got to be set hundreds of years in the past. They got to wear old clothes.
And I'm like,
this is like the same. This is the same show you watch. No, it's a totally different one. But like it all seems the same to me, you know, as a guy, I'm like, what is, so I go on Netflix. She goes and looks for those shows. I'm like, please not tonight. Please. I don't want to watch one of these tonight. And I love to go to the documentary section. Like I could watch documentaries all day long. Yeah. Like, cause I like real stuff, you know, and it can be about sports cause I love sports, but it doesn't have to be about sports. It can be about anything because I love the realness of it, you know? Yeah. So this is like right up my alley. Maybe this will be like a happy medium that I can reach.
You're going to love it. So the first time I saw it, it was like, I think it was 38 minutes and I was like, oh, I ain't got 38 minutes. So I went away from it. But then I actually pressed play, like, and then the first minute and a half got like, I was like, oh, and then next thing I know, I'm pausing it, going to do dinner and then coming back and watching it. So yeah. I mean, this woman is I feel like she's one of the queens of being able to capture attention. But really what I love about her is that she didn't just keep those skills for herself. She decided to bundle it into practical ways for entrepreneurs to then take those types of tactics and create more business out of it, which I think is really important these days because it's not easy to keep up. Just like Eric was talking about in one of our episodes, the designer of Peloton, he's like, the hard part about it being a creator and a designer is that everything keeps changing. And so I'm sure you can relate to that, right, Marley? Because you're a creator, like you are a creator. And I know we're jumping all around, but when did you know that you wanted to create at the level that you do now? Was it something that was instilled in you as a child?
Yeah, when I was a kid, my dream was to make movies in Hollywood. But I was told that that's not realistic and that's not a good career path and don't do that. And I kind of felt like I was being stifled, like, no, just be smaller and you don't need to do that. And I believed it for a time, like, okay, I just can't. And I was also like a little girl from Canada. I used to put the American national anthem on my wall and memorize it, like dreaming of the day that I would live in America. And now my dreams have come true.
Wow, that is so cool. We could talk about that for hours, but we'll say that for another episode.
So sweet. But yeah, I wanted to make movies in Hollywood. And then when I believed the well-meaning people in my life that said, no, you can't, I became a dental hygienist, which was not a dream come true. Yeah.
I sometimes forget you were a dental hygienist.
I know.
Like I had to remember for this
was the
episode
worst.
because, you know, I had to give him like some tips. He's like, so who's Marley Jaxx, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my gosh, she was a dental hygienist.
I was the worst. I mean, I was good at my job. Like it was fine. I had patients that would request me every time because I told good stories, of course, like being a storyteller, your hands are in their mouth. Like, what can you do? You just tell them stories to try to keep both of you entertained. But I was, I was looking at the clock. Like I could not wait to get out of there. And the reason why I came into social media and YouTube was because I started just playing on social media at the dental office, making social media content for the office because I was bored between patients. And some of that content started to bring in some new patients into the office. And then their IT guy was like, hey, do you want to do social media for some other of my clients? Well, next thing I know, overnight, I have a business because he referred me to all of his clients. And then I started to make my own YouTube channel answering frequently asked questions of my clients so I didn't have to repeat the answers all the time. And then some of those videos started to take off. And then I was like, whoa, can I do this on purpose? Like I didn't realize what I was doing. And then I was like, maybe I could make videos for my clients now. And what started as like little girl in Canada who dreamed of making movies in Hollywood, I started kind of like making movies for entrepreneurs on the internet, on YouTube, which is incredible that we have the ability now to just create content at this tip of our fingers. You can put out a piece of content every single day. In Hollywood, it takes years and the man to be able to approve of your creative ideas. And, we live in a really exciting time that like we can monetize our creativity. It's the best.
Gosh, I've got so many questions. This is really cool. But, the couple questions that come up in my head right now are where we are right now with social media. And the first two things that I think of as you're talking and hearing about what you do is, number one, deciphering through those people that come to you that want to create content because all they know is that there is a monetary reward out there. They hear these success stories. We just talked, I can't tell you how many times we've talked to our other guests, whether, it's somebody who's an Olympic gold medalist or someone who's a designer, but they all talk about, I failed so many times. People talk about that success, but I failed so many times. And the only way you'll allow yourself to fail many times is if you're truly passionate about what you're doing and you want it bad enough, right? But how do you filter through those people that they do say, how many times do I hear a day of, oh my gosh, this girl, she posts about, on her blog, or she does, her style, or she does this about a home redesign or renovation, and she's just making millions, and like it's simple, right? And like that has to be frustrating for you when you see people come and they just think, all right, just hurry up and teach me these few tricks so I can be independently wealthy by creating content.
Yeah. And I think the difference between those people that you said is there's the people that have the what's it going to take attitude and the people who have the whatever it takes attitude. It's the people who don't give up. They're like, I'm not trying for this. We live in this microwave economy, like we can just pop something in the microwave and it's ready in a moment. We can put money into Facebook ads. And if you do it right, $1 in, $2 out. But the problem with that is you're renting attention, or you get high on this short-term gratification, which isn't sustainable, doesn't last. And so when I'm working with clients, or even if I that's like one of the first things I do is going through the mindset of having the whatever it takes attitude, and that we're here to play the long game. Like, it's actually better to have success that's like the train leaving the station than a rocket ship. I want to have something that is going the long game.
Right. Well, because there's all these lessons that I'm sure you've learned along the way. It's not just the gratification of how hard you work to get there, but that's what makes you good at what you're doing, because you have had those failures. You have had those plateaus where, you've had a little bit of success, but it doesn't seem to be increasing incrementally like you hoped it would, which leads me to the other question that I had is, what you offer and programs that you offer, it's an investment for people because it works. So there's a lot of pressure for you because you would not be successful like you are. Eventually people would catch on. Okay, I've paid this. It did not return what I hoped it would, and that's going to peter out. So, to continue to do that and build that because people know that it works, I think not only says a lot about what you do, but did you feel that when you started doing that to help bring others to the point where you are?
For sure. I feel like I had to, and I think this happens with everyone. You got to put in the reps to get the confidence. It doesn't come the other way around. You don't get the confidence first and then get the result. You have to sometimes fake it till you make it and push through even when it feels hard. And I love that you talk about failure, because something that I think about a lot and I will share with my clients, share with my team, is failure is a prerequisite. And like you use it in, fitness terms. How does a muscle grow? Well, you have to work it to failure. Failure in the gym is a good thing. Failure in the business, we have so many judgments around that. But instead looking at it like, hey, this is part of the path. This is actually a prerequisite. And teaching business owners, entrepreneurs, anyone who's on a path of personal development, that this is actually what you signed up for. And, you were mentioning the pressure of like working with people, and we're not cheap. We certainly do have things at different price points, but I have so much conviction that it works. And I want to attract people that also have the conviction that they are going to do whatever it takes to make it work. One of my favorite stories to tell is Mr. Beast, who has 300 million subscribers on YouTube.
I didn't know who he was until my boys started talking about Mr. Beast forever ago. And I'm like, who is Mr. Beast? They're like, are you kidding me, Dad? Yeah. You don't know. I know who he is now. Trust me.
Yeah, your kids will know for sure. Mr. Beast, though, when he started creating his YouTube channel, he was like, I just want to make the best videos. I just want to make, and like you can see there's like compilations of interviews with him where he's just obsessed with making the best videos. And that's who I want to work with. Like I want to work with people that are obsessed. People pay extra for obsession. People will wait lineups down the block for obsession. You are paying for the passion, the product that comes from someone's obsession. And so Mr. Beast, when he put out his 100th video, how many subscribers do you think he had after 100 videos?
I have no idea.
I know the answer.
100 after 100 videos?
Yeah. Like how many would you hope after putting in that effort of making 100 videos?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think it would be easy to quit if you didn't have thousands.
Right. He had 760 subscribers.
Wow.
So it's like there's a lot of entrepreneurs who there are so many graveyard YouTube channels, abandoned, orphaned YouTube channels, because they're like, I didn't see the result from it. This doesn't work. Show me the formula that I can just X, Y, Z equals 3. Like it doesn't work like that. And it's always, I love that story from Think and Grow Rich. Like you're 3 feet from gold. Like the guy who he found the gold and then he lost the vein and then he gave up everything. And then he sold his stuff to a junk man who hired an expert, who hired someone that knew what they were doing and found they were just 3 feet. Struck it rich. Get obsessed.
And I love these. So one thing I love about this podcast is our idea was like, when we started the podcast, what is it going to be about? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, it has to be health and wellness. And he was like, well, but I want it from different perspective, different careers. I want it to reach the masses, because the more we think about it and the more you learn about health and wellness, it does correlate to everything. Your health is everything. And so when you're talking about, at 100 videos, 760 subscribers, I think about the person who's gone to the gym 100 times and they still may have not hit that wish pick or that vision board, but they still have to keep going, or they are at their 100th day post-op bariatric surgery, or their 100th day post-op plastics, where that's only really 90 days. There's still so much more to go. And I think that how we can kind of just tie that first part together is that you just don't give up. Mm-hmm. Like you don't give up. I mean, even you being a dental hygienist and, finding it seems like what you did was you're like, oh, open door. I'm going to walk through that and see where it leads me. Open door. I'm going to walk through that and see where it leads me. So we have talked about your success, and you're just like getting started. But there was a point in time where you personally had to prioritize your health. And I would like to talk about that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, how you were able to figure out that something was going on, and kind of tell us that story.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that something was going on. I just went for my regular, female checkup, PAP, the usual thing that us ladies got to do. And they said, hey, something came back irregular, come back in 6 months, go back in 6 months, not thinking anything of it. And they said, hey, there's still something here. We're going to, can you come back in again? And when I came back in again, they were like, hey, we're just going to do a little biopsy, which is terrifying to hear. And also when you're in that vulnerable position, ladies, you know what I mean? You're like, there, what? And awful. They did the biopsy, and they were like, this should be fine. And then I got a call, and it was actually like 2 days before Christmas. And they said, hey, something came back. We did not expect this, but I put it on speaker immediately because I checked out as soon as it sounded like it was going towards, some news that I was not expecting. And I remember they said, adenocarcinoma, which with my health background, I recognize that means like cancer glands around my cervix. And I remember them saying hysterectomy and see you next week. And wow. I was just like in a daze, like what just happened? And it didn't click for me. My boyfriend was with me, and he kind of handled the rest of the phone call. And it's like even foggy, even thinking back of it now. I went for Christmas, still in a daze of like, what? I'm 31 at the time. I have to have a hysterectomy. What? And the appointment that I went to the week after to have this follow-up to talk to the doctor in person, the nurse, she does like the triage, taking your blood pressure and stuff right before. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Your Christmas must have been awful. That was just such terrible news. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I still hadn't processed it. So it didn't click until the nurse said this to me, that there must be something that must have ruined my Christmas. This must be serious. Yeah. And, wow. So then the doctor came in and explained it to me again, where I was able to process it more. She said cervical adenocarcinoma, which is cancer in the glands of my cervix. And that she built this up of like, only 1 in 100,000 women have this type, and we don't want it to be aggressive. So the best course of action is to have a hysterectomy, and we want to do this as soon as possible. So when works for you? And, every sentence was like, dodging bullets, like, wait, what are you saying? And I scheduled the surgery because part of me was impulsive, like, let's get this done. I'm an action taker, which is kind of interesting. There's like two sides of Marley, the entrepreneur, comes out, like the action taker, but also the analytical and what's the best path, and also what's the path less traveled. As entrepreneurs, we do things differently. So I scheduled the surgery like a few weeks later. And then thankfully I had a marketing campaign calendar that got in the way, business. So I'm like, I'm going to put this off a little bit and put this off a little bit and put this off. I put it off like another just month. But in that time, I just kept having this gnawing feeling of, is this the right path? Like if I have the surgery, is that fighting the right battle? Or am I waving the white flag in a way? Like, have I given up too easy when maybe I should have done something different? And, me being on social media and being very, like, I have an audience and I'm quite, I share certain things in my life. I don't share everything, but I talk about my personal stories. And it took me a while because I had to first admit to myself the C word. And at one point I shared it and said, hey, I got this diagnosis and I'm still processing it. And usually on social media, wise people like Brene Brown say to share the scars and not the open wounds. But this really is an open wound right now. And I'm sharing it because I need help. And this feels very vulnerable. And I am terrified to share this, but I'm sharing this because I would love help. I need attention. I need support. I need resources. I need to know if anyone has any advice for me. And it was such a weird time because like, that's not the stuff. I mean, everyone wants to be sharing the Instagram filtered, look how amazing my life is stuff. And so it was weird to get attention for that. Even though I needed help, like that's why I shared it. And I'm so glad that I did, because something that I say to my clients is like, you never know who's listening that might need something, like that you could say something that changes their lives. But you also never know who's watching that can give you something and change yours. And thank God that I shared that, because I had strangers and experts and just incredible people that reached out, and a lot of it did go over my head. I couldn't receive all of it because it was so much, like, which just also shows how incredible the world is when you reach out for a hand. But I had amazing people that, you know, functional medicine doctors, naturopaths, people who had also beaten cancer and did it in all these different methodologies. And so ultimately, spoiler alert, still here. Yay. And I healed it, and I don't, there's still things to heal. There are still some cancer markers in my blood work, but since I've gone back to the doctor that diagnosed me, and every time I go back for a PAP, it is not inconclusive, no evidence. And now what's showing is just in my blood that we just keep checking the cancer markers, and I check them every 60 to 90 days. So I'm constantly checking the data. I'm not living in fear of where is it getting bigger? Is it coming back? You know? And I've learned so much about health and healing and my body, that your body can create an environment for cancer to form just as much as it can create an environment to heal. And that's what I did.
Wow. It's hard with social media. You get so many comments from so many people, and people get really brave behind a keyboard, as you know all too well, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
But through that, if you decipher through that, there are people out there that have, you know, legitimate information, that are truly caring. And, you know, it shows the power of social media. We could sit here and talk about the negatives of social media. We could talk about the negatives of anything if you have that negative perspective on it. But it shows the power of community and people from all over the world being able to impact somebody's life. And some of those people may not even know that they've impacted it the way that they have for you.
Well, you know me, I love the idea of like, fight the power. Like she was like, they're telling me to do this, you know, but looking at what are the other options? If that is across the board, the only option, that's one thing, but that's a drastic measure, you know, and it's a big step for any woman to take, you know? And so a lot of people, and I would even say up until a couple of years ago, myself, you know, now I'd probably be like, Eric, they're trying to tell me that I should do this. Can you tell me what your advice is? Yeah. But back in the day, I would have been like, okay, you know what? They're telling me to do it. I'm going to do it, you know? And I would have been that person. Let's book it next week. Like, let's get it done, you know? But I've actually seen this one show on Netflix, and it's a fiction, but this little girl, she had something similar and they removed it. And we don't know because it's fiction, but she was a great actress. The way she reacted to it after, and how it even changed her perspective on life, on faith, on like, why did this happen to me? That's why I think it's so important to take advantage of all the information that's out there before you. I mean, it's so hard to say, Eric, because back in the day, it's just like you trust the doctor. But now there's so much false information flying around, even negligence that's happening within hospitals, that it's not always easy just to trust the diagnosis anymore. You know?
Yeah. You know, listen, as a physician, I totally agree. And it goes both ways. Don't get me wrong. You know, there's a lot of so-called doctors out there on social media that have opinions too. But the thing is the way that we're trained in one focal area. And any physician who's not willing enough and humble enough to admit that is dangerous, in my opinion. And I would also say, as a young physician, it took time for me to look around and realize people are teaching me science. They're teaching me good information, but there's many times that it's not the end all to be all. You know, what we just talked about this recently, Laura, you know, you have to look at your situation and say, what is my risk and what is my benefit? And you have to get information from multiple sources. And there may be someone who says where they are in life, whether it be their age, whether it be their desire to have a family or not have a family, whether it be what their comfort level is to say, okay, great, I agree, I'll have a hysterectomy, and they may do fine. And that may have been right for them. And they may have been okay to not seek out other alternatives. But they also need to realize that that's not the only alternative, you know. And then you sit down and say, well, based on the information, what's my risks of recurrence? The unfortunate thing, and I'll say this as a physician, is when you don't have drug companies and lots of money to be made, studies are only going to support things when there's money to be made. And what I'm really trying to say is when it comes to things where there's not patents to be had, there's not money to be made, you may not have the power in the data that says this alternative can be as effective, because who's pushing that, right? Who's pushing that agenda to really look at hundreds of thousands of patients? And so as a physician, I can say, well, there's no data that says that that treatment's as good as what I'm doing. And I'm not lying. It's actually very true. But I also know in my head, but our data is limited because of why. And unfortunately, many times it's because of those reasons. And I think, you know, kudos to you to take control of your body, your decision making, and get the information to decide what treatment, you know, was best for you, and maybe avoid something that you didn't need.
And very permanent. I mean, that's irreversible. You can't put those body parts back in.
I do have a question for you. So, did you see a shift in the way that you moved in all different aspects of your life after that experience?
Great question. Yeah, because like cancer diagnosis is, I would probably say, like, is it reasonable to say that's a top 3 fear for someone to receive? And to receive it unexpectedly at 31 years old, never saw that coming. I'm healthy. I'm great. Like, I don't drink. Like, it's not a thing. And to get that at 31 years old, and then to take the control into my own hands and to feel very empowered in my decision, despite a lot of voices around me and a lot of, you know, doctors really encouraging, like, you have to do this. And then to beat it. Again, I say that with the asterisk because there is still some of my cancer markers that in my blood work that we're still working through, but I am in control of it. And I feel so empowered. Like, if I can do that, can I do anything? Yes. Yes, I can. And now, if I got a diagnosis or something again, or something with a family member, we go back to the protocol. The body can heal itself. And there are so many different modalities.
Right. And you have those other options still, right? You know, I firmly believe that the power of the human spirit and the power of your mind and your mentality has a massive impact on how you heal from surgery, from illnesses, from cancer. And I'm not just trying to say, oh, if I just think positive, all my cancer is just going to go away. That is not what I'm saying. Anybody out there, don't go twisting my words. But I do believe there's definitely good evidence hormonally that has been studied to know that it does have an impact on how you heal. And, you know, when people, here we go back to perspective again, Laura. We talk about this frequently, but you know, when you have that positive outlook, when you have that perspective, and it's not just a matter of saying, I know I'm going to beat this. I know I'm going to beat this. And you don't believe it. Your body doesn't think it either. Right. It doesn't believe it either. It doesn't respond like you believe it. But when you find that peace, whether it be in your faith, whether it be in the decision that you chose, whether it be in the science that you chose, that you know I'm going to overcome this, and you have that perspective, it can be very healing to the body. And the reverse can happen too. And I've watched people who hit struggles post-operatively in surgery, they're okay, but they don't think they're okay. And it's so sad and frustrating to watch them eventually become not okay because mentally they did not believe they were okay.
Mm.
Yeah. And, there are so many great nuggets from your experience and how you focused on your perspective and was like, I really think that there is a gift in the way that you received the information and didn't automatically freak out and ruin your Christmas, because that was an option.
Sure.
Yeah, you didn't know it was supposed to be ruined until that lady said that.
Yeah. So, I think there's a gift in that. And then the other gift is that even right now, as you talk about it, I really feel like it's a testament that how you mentally look at it and how you mentally approach it is going to dictate how you go through the process. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, they just mentally will shut down, not realizing that there are so many resources, not only externally, but internally. I'll never forget. I think Pop was about 5 months old. And I was like at my wit's end, and financially we were and I called Marley and I was like, Marley, I don't know what to do. We're going to go under. And she's like, let's hop on a call. Mm-hmm. And so we hopped on a call and I was like, oh great. She's going to give me some money. And that didn't happen. I was like, she's going to give me some money. I know. But what happened was we started working on ideas and it gave me, she's like, and you have this video and that video, in your toolbox and in the platform that I hadn't really gotten to yet. So I ended up going and looking through all the videos and finding that one video that I felt like I could really work with. And it was just within 60 days, I changed my approach, going directly to surgeons, and the rest is history. Pop is now 2 years old. It's a 7-figure business. It's growing. We just signed with an EHR company that has 1,200 practices. I have an amazing medical director that the world knows that I didn't even know he was as influential as he was. And we just ended up connecting. We just signed on another plastic surgeon medical director. And I say that because in that moment, it was using the community that I had around me to help change my perspective. Because had I not had that conversation, I wouldn't have realized all the resources that were right there around me. But I just reached out and showed vulnerability, just like you did in your video, in a culture of IG where it's like better to look at me. I'm on vacation. I'm having a great time. You're like, things just got real up in here, and I need to share it with someone. And I think that now that's becoming more acceptable. But when you did it, it certainly wasn't as popular as it is now.
Mm. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, it was. It was terrifying, and I will never forget the people that were there for me, the strangers that were there for me, which now makes me want to be a stranger that will be there for other people. And one of them, he's an incredible author and speaker. His name is Chris Wark, and he has a book called Chris Beat Cancer. And his story, he had a very similar surprise diagnosis. It was stage 3B colon cancer. And he also just felt this strong message from God of you are going to heal this naturally, and then you're going to share it with the world. And he got on a call with me, and the first thing that he said to me that rang through my ears for weeks was, you have time. You have time. Because I was like, this is a ticking time bomb. If I want to live, I got to have the surgery right now. And he was like, you have time. Make a decision out of empowerment, not fear, which is amazing advice for any decision that you're making. And I think about that a lot too, regardless of a health situation, is that you always have time.
Yeah. So I got a lot of questions, but I I'll be honest with you. I've taken care of patients for a long time, and I share
long time.
I just put the ball on the tee for her so she can have her one little moment every time we get together.
Yeah.
It's part of our shtick now. God.
Carry on.
But, I shared with patients. There were, I firmly believe as a bariatric surgeon, as much as I am a surgeon and or physician, I'm sometimes a part-time therapist. I'm a part-time listener. I'm a part-time motivator. And I think the more that I learned I was those things, the more that I embraced that role. But I think I didn't really see it. I didn't think that I was really making that much of a difference. Hey, I'm a surgeon. I know that I'm really good with my hands and I know I can do surgeries. And I felt like that was how I could make a difference. And even when people would give you feedback that you did make a difference in their life outside of what you did with your hands, you almost thought, I didn't really do anything, because it seems like it's nothing. To me, to say words for the longest time felt like it was nothing compared to what I did and what I was known to do as a surgeon. And we all know how powerful words are, but for me, I even felt that way. And I didn't really realize the impact that I could have until maybe I took advantage of some of the platforms that I was blessed to have and took advantage of those, and then saw, wow, I do have the ability to help people with my words as well as with my surgical skills. But I think for me, what's been difficult is, I have a story to tell. I have something to share that I know rings true, that I've watched it change patients' lives in the office. But it's really difficult to navigate that through the different platforms of social media because there's so many formulas. The Monica who helps me with my social media because I'm not smart enough to do this by myself. And she's like, oh, that was a great video. But guess what? Way too long. Nobody's watching that. You got to cut that way down. I'm like, no, but Monica, and so I still learn that, Mm-hmm. And I know some platforms YouTube, for example, does give that platform to maybe be more lengthy or to set up different structure behind that. But how do you help people who come to you that you see them and say, man, they're talented, they have great mission, they have great passion, but to make it fit the formula? That to me, I'm still to this day at 50 years old, intimidated by it and sometimes frustrated by it.
Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of great tools like AI to be able to help with things like that. So we have formulas, we have frameworks that people can plug in. But the most important thing is we also want it to be you and your personality. And I can when I look at someone, let's say I onboard someone on a call and I'm trying to help them with their strategy, we want to sync their content to their personality. We call it content personality syncing, that you're not going to create content if you don't like it. If you're like, oh, I got to freaking chores again, push the boulder uphill. So I need to make it something that you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait to make a video on that topic. Like I can go off on this. Like you guys seem like you're having a lot of fun doing this podcast. Laura's teasing you for being old. She's laughing at her own jokes.
Whoa. Now for her perception, we're talking, this is perspective again. It's her perspective of what old is. That's what I like to say.
So I bet Laura could do this all day. She could do these podcasts and have a great time with it. And that's what we want. And if she hated it, she just wouldn't do it. So we have to find the right content to sync with that. But there are also things like, okay, you have to have a good hook in your videos. You have to start it well by saying something that's going to capture attention, because otherwise they're going to go find a cat video or they're going to keep scrolling or something. We have to hook their attention. And a lot of people start their videos or start their content by doing a weather report. Hey guys, happy Tuesday. It's a great day today, but no one cares.
Scroll, gone.
Right. But people do that because they're trying to ramp up. They're trying to get confidence. Do that off camera and then start with a hook. And if you need help coming up with hooks, there's this great thing called ChatGPT where you can be like, hey, I want to make a video about how to help my patients to make the right decision in their care. What's the first sentence I can say that's going to capture their attention? Give me 10 options. Boom. And then you find the one that feels best for you. But then also to create content as if you're having a conversation. Because if it's like, oh, I got to remember like you're trying to be an actor, like you're remembering lines and I have to say it a certain way and look like a news reporter, or that's not it.
It's not natural.
No, exactly. And so that's like, I help people kind of unlearn and like shake that belief out of them and then get them started. And I can do that in a couple days, and I'm the best at it. And my clients walk away with, I didn't know that this could actually be really fun.
Right. And it's really no different than anything else. You know, I love sports, and you think of athletes, there's athletes out there that are very athletic. They have a lot of natural talent, but they don't know how to harness it. They don't know how to perfect it. They don't know how to translate that from what they're able to do with their natural ability during a game, you know? And it is a skill. And, you know, I think when I hear people say, oh, my gosh, this person makes all this money on social media, and they just sit around and talk about, and you think how much work these people do. And they don't have a following if they suck at it. Sorry, but they don't. And if they do, it's short-lived. Like you said, they've paid for some ads. They got 2 for their $1. That will peter out, and that will eventually not grow incrementally. You'll like this. It won't grow 2 times. It'll grow 10 times.
Yes. 10X is easier than 2X. It's one of my favorite books in the world.
So we do have many people who are going on transformation journeys that would like to be more visible on social media and would like to share their story because they have reached so many great things. Because we have you and our goal is to give to the people, what would be your advice to them as one of the masters in, I mean, not just a YouTube coach, the YouTube coach, okay? What would be your advice to them to be able to continue on that journey and see that level that they're trying to achieve?
Yeah. And are you saying like to be able to share their story with people?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And effectively and have that reach, because they have a story, but they may not know how to get that message to them, to other people. Right.
When creating content, especially when it's like you feel like you have to share this story for people, and I just remembered this. When I was going through my diagnosis, I was, of course, Googling, YouTubing, trying to find anyone that had this story that I could relate to. I found one woman who had the exact same diagnosis as me. She made one video and stopped, and I was pissed.
She didn't have a coach like you.
Well, then but also I'm like, did she die? Like my brain was like the first thing. Why did she only make one video? I'm going to find her now. I'm like, you get in my program right now.
Yeah.
Also, I hope you're well. Like, okay. When creating content, though, yes, we want to make an impact on people and we hope that it reaches lots of people. But like, let's just forget about that for a second, because people will judge thinking only 100 people saw this video. OMG, if you had 100 people in your living room, that would be a big deal. Do not discount that. But first of all, create content like you're creating it for your past self. You're creating it for yourself first. And then the people that get to see it, that was a very genuine self-expression. That's what they're going to feel. And you can even forget, I say that with an asterisk, you don't need to worry as much about the hooks and the engagement breaks and the CTAs and all the like technical formulaic things that I can tell you, because it is genuinely from you. I have some videos where I just like turned on the camera and I rambled and I was genuine and I was in flow, and people feel that. A video that I still get people commenting on was when I made up my public divorce announcement. I made that video in 2019 when I was going through a divorce, and people still find it. And they were like, wow, that was so strong. And I'm like, thanks. You can see I was in a lot of pain at the time, but I was being very real. And I was, sharing. I was about to speak on a huge stage, and I needed to change my name before it because I didn't want to step on that stage with this name. There was a little bit of trauma around it. And that, my message came through in that. There's another, I use this example too. There's a guy on YouTube. His name is Sam Sulek. If anyone wants to look that up, his last name Sulek. He's a big bodybuilder, and his content, he'll like put his his camera in his grocery cart while he's grocery shopping. He'll hook it up next to him while he's driving, and he's just talking to you like you're his best friend. And I'm like, what the heck? This guy isn't using any hooks. He's not using any formulas. And I go to this channel to investigate it. And next thing I know, like 30 minutes has gone by, and I'm like, he got me, because he's so real and genuine. And so for people that want to share their story, that they're like, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if I could, impact people with my message? Start with yourself. Imagine that you're sharing this story for even your future self to look back on and be like, wow, look what she went. Like, I wish that I documented going from being a dental hygienist to starting a business. I would love to look back on that, to be like, man, the challenges that girl went through, they're kind of still similar to probably to the challenges she's going through now. But like, imagine like you're documenting for your future self to look back on, also knowing that this might impact other people too.
Marley, I love that, because I cannot tell you, and Laura and I have talked about this, I was so anti-social media for the longest time. I was trained back in the day, as Laura would like to say, where, I had an attending, and he used to say, this is back, we were just doing laparoscopy, and don't make fun, but on box monitors in the OR. And to record a surgery, it was not like on a hard drive. And he used to say, recording surgeries, they're just for the lawyers. You don't ever record a surgery. It's just for the lawyers, because they were so paranoid, and then we were taught, stay off Facebook, stay off all these things, because listen, what we pay for malpractice insurance, especially in my field, and they sit you down and they educate you on how to avoid those bad situations. And there's stories of patients reaching out to a doctor's Facebook when it's very clear they should be calling the ER. They should be calling his office. It's after hours, and making a complaint, and the doctor doesn't check his Facebook 24/7, and he gets sued because some person called with, emergent complaints. So they make us extremely paranoid. And there are really strict things that we do still try to follow, especially if it's affiliated with, directly with our practice. So we come out like we don't want any part of this social media. You also come out as a physician of like, don't listen to Dr. Google, listen to a real doctor. I've learned a lot from that too. And I've learned to humble myself in different ways because of that. But there are some platforms where it's a free-for-all. Laura and I talk about this, especially bariatric surgery. You get on a Facebook forum, it is a free-for-all, and everybody's an expert, versus somewhere where it's moderated, where it's a safe space, there's no bullies, and people can talk about their vulnerability. And as I learned the community that was out there in my profession of bariatric surgery and health and wellness and the positive impact it could make, I slowly started to encourage patients to venture there too. And I was always very careful, because I never wanted them to think that I'm pushing them to go to social media to basically become a billboard for what I had a part in their life, right? And I would tell them, and trust me, it's not because I know the stuff that you know, but I would always say, I promise you that the person that will benefit the most from you sharing your story is you. Share it for you first. The rest is just secondary benefit. It's collateral damage that's not damage. It's collateral blessings. Because you stepping out and sharing that story will empower you so much. And then you're going to learn how many people's lives you can positively impact. And I can't tell you how many times people have come back to me and said, thank you for encouraging me to do that. And they weren't obsessed. They didn't care if they had 100 followers or 100,000 followers. But it's so true for somebody like you who knows this business backwards and forwards, for that to be one of the golden rules of social media and content creators.
Yeah. So
see,
well
look, you know more than you thought, Eric.
Just enough to be dangerous. No, but I love that. I mean, I truly, I think, for our listeners, and like Laura said, a lot of people out there are looking for this journey. They do want to share their story, and they are looking for people like you for advice. You also should go take our courses too, by the way, whoever's listening.
Yes. I mean, if you are looking at trying to explore content creation, especially something like evergreen content on YouTube, it's definitely worth it, because
when people are looking for answers and you can have them on your channel, they'll just start like binging it and watching it over and over again. And not only can it help you share your story, but it can also help the next person. And oh, by the way, if you get really good at it, you can make some money too. And I like that part.
Well, invest in yourself. If people want to be good content creators, then invest in becoming a good content creator. We say that with patients all the time. People will spend money to have surgery. They'll spend money to travel to have surgery. But man, $1.50 a day for really good vitamins for what I need after my bariatric surgery. Oh man, I don't know. Well, what's the point? Why go through this? Invest in yourself first.
Wow.
So, people aren't successful like you without having validity behind that investment for their trade.
So if we wanted to learn more about all the magical, amazing things you do, Marley Jaxx, where can our listeners find you?
Come check me out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Look up Marley Jaxx and feel free to DM me on Instagram. I'm the only person that responds to my DMs. You'll never get an assistant or anything there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Do you have any parting words? Eric, do you want to ask any content creation questions?
No, I'm going to DM her. My mind's racing.
Great.
So many different directions. We'll talk off camera.
Great.
But no, I just it's so fun to come into these where I don't know a whole lot about you other than what Laura told me, and she just kind of rambled, and so how Laura, you can't kind of follow that sometimes. But it's fascinating, and I don't get me wrong, I did do some research, and your accomplishments are amazing, and I commend you on that, and I know that you're very proud of that, and the mark that you're leaving moving forward as well. But I think this is a really powerful episode for our followers because there are so many people out there that would love to share their story. Some would love to make a career out of it. But there are also people that have careers that they love but want to be effective in sharing their story. And I think that's the thing that gets missed about content creators is, yes, you want to make a living, you want to get paid for the work that you do, but you also want to find the way to get the message out there because there's really good stories out there that for some reason they don't know exactly how to make it public. They don't know how to make it known to more than a couple hundred people. And really what they want to do is change people's lives. And so I love this episode. I'm so grateful that you joined us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to get to know you, Dr. Eric and Laura, Alexis.
What song you want to hear, girl? I got you.
I was like reading your name. I'm on 5 hours of sleep. I'm so sorry.
Don't
so
worry.
Fun to see you again laugh at your own jokes. I just love being around you.
Thank you. I love you. And thank you so much for joining us on this episode. And we'll see you next time on the Pop Culture Podcast.
All right. See ya.